Who's got two thumbs and did not realize that Gish is programmed by the same guy who programmed Super Meat Boy? This guy. Now, I guess that joke kind of loses its effectiveness in a medium where you can't see me making the gestures. But, basically that's my roundabout way of saying I've come into the knowledge that this is an Edmund McMillen game. And by coming into the knowledge, I mean I actually stopped being lazy and checked out the credits screen before the game for 2 seconds. And yeah, it is an Edmund McMillen game, better known since October anyway, as the programming half or the coding half of Team Meat. So yeah, this isn't just for interest's sake, although it is pretty interesting. It's also probably helped me from, or kept me from putting my foot in my mouth. Like, I'm glad I found it out at this point rather than at the end of the Let's Play, because I was definitely planning on bringing up Meat Boy a lot, because there's a lot of similarities. So I guess this explains not only why Gish is in Meat Boy, because obviously there's a personal connection there, but also why the games share many similarities, not just in terms of like they have the similar senses of humor. Some of the sounds, I swear to God, are recycled from Gish into Meat Boy, and like the character designs as well are very similar, particularly the enemies and the bosses. So you can definitely see like the resemblance in Super Meat Boy to Gish of like the enemies right there. Not so much the big one, but particularly the little things that try to bite you look like they're basically straight out of Meat Boy, or I guess straight out of Gish, technically, because this is an older game, 2005. But I know I said 2007 in the last video. I was in fact mistaken. You might notice me struggling with the controls right here. One of my favorite comments on the last video was about someone who said they were really interested in seeing where this Let's Play went, because they got the game themselves through the Humble Indie Bundle, as I'm sure many or maybe even most of you guys who have the game probably procured it in a similar fashion. Yeah, but he didn't get very far in it. He couldn't really get into it because the controls for the jumping was so clunky. He also said there was some platforming tropes that the game didn't really adhere to that he didn't like spikes should kill you instantly, but in this game they don't. But mainly the kind of clunky jumping controls. And you know, as we move into World 2, where jumping puzzles are prevalent in pretty much every level, I sadly have to agree with him. I can see where the controls could turn a lot of people off. I think there's a lot to love in this game, and I sincerely mean that. Right, pretty much everything but the controls in the game is fantastic. But the controls, I can totally understand how they would be a deal breaker for some people. I haven't broken the deal for me yet, but they are a constant source of frustration, and I can only imagine that it gets worse the further you get in the game, because these jumping puzzles that are becoming more and more prevalent. Pretty much this whole world is jumping puzzles and switch puzzles, which probably two of my least favorite things in games, particularly 2D platforming games. But I'll give the game a pass for now, because I have faith in the developer. But if it continues, I think my opinion of the game will be somewhat tarnished. I would still consider it a recommendation at this point, but there is definitely some tedium that is setting in. Not tedium in the sense that it's boring, just tedium in the sense that it's aggravating. There's a lot of aggravation in this game. Meat Boy, difficult, not frustrating. Well, sometimes frustrating, but never really annoying. Like, you always feel like you deserve your deaths. In this game, due to the controls, a lot of the time I feel like my deaths are kind of out of my hands. Like, they're somewhat unpredictable, just based on like, well, like I think a jump will let me live, but instead, because the controls are a little bit wonky, I'll end up getting sandwiched between two items or between two objects and dying. Yeah, so hopefully that doesn't become a trend. The only thing I hate worse than jumping puzzles and switch puzzles are fetch quests, and hopefully there won't be any of those in the game. So yeah, this is the most complex puzzle we've had so far. We have to take this block from the bottom under the water and then bring it up to the top. So let's get one thing out of the way. This is not Zelda. A crazy stutter there. Yeah, this is not Zelda or Okami or anything. This isn't even Metroid. The puzzles in this game are more on the level of something you might see in Super Mario Brothers, which is totally fine. It's not a puzzler. It's a platforming game. But don't expect to be too challenged, at least up to this point in the game. Yeah, I hate to harp on this, but the challenge in the game doesn't seem high. It just seems like the potential for aggravation seems high. You know, you die in Meat Boy, that's what, maybe 10 seconds that you've wasted. If you die in this game, you could potentially be losing, 5 minutes because of the length of the levels. And I mean, that's not so bad. 5 minutes is not the end of the world, but it sucks, particularly when it feels like you died because of the controls rather than because of your own idiocy. So this is Switch puzzle level here, and you really see the mechanics of moving these crates is super annoying. This harkens back even to the second level where I had to throw that crate to make the big block fall down and break some more stuff so I could get through. I feel like I'm saying a lot of negative things when I don't really... Well, I mean them, but I don't really want to give a negative impression of the game. I'm having a hell of a good time playing it, but the fact that it's so good is kind of the disappointing thing, because it could be a lot better if it controlled more tightly. I mean, look at Meat Boy. Very simple premise. Controls absolutely perfect, and that's what makes the game so fun to play. When you die, it doesn't feel like it's the game's fault. It feels entirely like it's your own stupid mistake that made it happen. Whereas in this game, it feels like you're fighting the controls as much as you are the level design. But the fact that it's still not just playable, but also highly enjoyable, in spite of the fact that the controls are so damaged, not broken, but damaged. Highlights what an inspired concept it is. This ramp reminds me of like the NES version of Double Dare, where it's just such a hard time getting my ass up this 30-degree slope. But anyway, I'll make a New Year's LP resolution to not talk so much about the bad controls in Gish, and I'll start that resolution early. Because I really want to give an honest impression of the game, which is that it's quite good. Particularly when you think, again, I was mistaken, this did not come out in 2007, it came out in 2004 or 2005, and in terms of indie gaming, that is ancient fucking history. I mean, think of all the advances that have happened in indie gaming in the last few years. It's really come to the forefront. Maybe not the forefront, but it's definitely more attention is given to it than it was 5 or 6 years ago, where it was basically unknown outside of a small circle of people. Small meaning, probably in the hundreds of thousands, but still, compared to like regular gaming, like Call of Duty scope gaming. Yeah, so this is a game that has actually aged really well, and I think that's pretty remarkable in indie gaming, where it seems like a new... what a stupid way to die. That one was my own fault. I can't blame the game for that. But, what was that saying? Oh yeah, it's aged really well, which is remarkable for an indie game, because in indie gaming, it seems like there's a hot new game every couple of months. I mean, like, even just within the last couple of years, we've had World of Goo, Braid, Super Meat Boy, Limbo, lots of other stuff that I'm probably forgetting as well. That has, really basically come out of nowhere, I guess more appropriately, come out of Newgrounds, and, really changed the landscape of how we see independent gaming. So the fact that in such an industry that changes so fast, or a subset of the industry that changes so fast, the fact that Gish still holds up well after 5 years, which again is like, fucking a lifetime in indie gaming, is pretty remarkable, and a testament to the fact that it's a cool concept. I just wish the goddamn controls were better so I could make those jumping puzzles, make those jumps reliably. But part of it is it's just a different platforming game too. So, like, you good at Mario Bros? This probably is not, your skills from that will not carry over into this. The closest example I can think of is actually this somewhat obscure game called Smart Ball that I used to own on Super Nintendo when I was like 8 or 9 probably. And yeah, you played as basically Gish, but a blue version of Gish. Not a half bad game actually. Definitely not an NES classic, but sorry, a Super Nintendo classic, but it's from that era where there were a bunch of, you know, half decent but mostly unremarkable platformers released for the Super Nintendo. Now that development, I guess, was a little bit easier and platformers were all the rage back then. Really wish that would happen again, that we could go back to platformers being the genre du jour. Because, I was into the FPS, the first-person shooter stuff when I was a teenager. Just doesn't really tickle my fancy that much anymore. I don't find it that inspired. It seems like pretty much every game is almost exactly the same. Maybe that's not fair, because I haven't played, like, more than an hour of the new Call of Duty games, each of them. But I don't know. Just not really up my alley. I more prefer games like this. So really minor complaint I want to bring up right now is that these text boxes are so fucking long and they're unskippable, which is kind of an unforgivable mistake. I mean, please let me click through the scenes so I can actually like read them at the correct pace rather than sit here for 20 or 30 seconds. But, you know, even with the text on the screen, it's not so bad. When it's bad is when Gish just gives you this, like, blank stare. And, yeah, there, you see it right there. You're like, well, is there any reason this needs to be on the screen for more than 2 seconds? Like, am I missing some complex visual themes that I need to analyze in order to truly appreciate the story of the game right now? Like, just let me play already. Jesus Christ. Thank you. Alright. So this is the second boss fight, and it is just a race. So basically you've got to get to the finish and hit a switch before this thing kills you. And it actually does a lot of damage, so you want to stay away from it. That's my pro tip for the day. Stay away from the boss if you don't want to die. But yeah, for the most part it's not too bad. I wouldn't worry too much about taking the amount of damage I've taken so far. So all you got to do is hit this switch, or you know, completely miss it and have to take another pass at it. Hopefully I'll get it here, otherwise I may actually die. Ooh, okay, yeah, that's not so bad. Another typical Edmund McMillen thing where you use the sun to kill an enemy. And we have our bonus stage, and this one's more of like a zipline bonus stage. And like I said in my Mega Man X Let's Play about minecarts, you know, name me a game that has a bad zipline level. You can't do it. Oh, although I ended up eating my words a little bit because I just totally ate it. Yeah, so you really want to go right on that one as opposed to left. The more you know. So I'm just going to do this the easy way and drop down the right side. I won't get any amber, but, you know, who cares? I didn't get basically any throughout the course of this world anyway, so, you know, what's a little bit more of an amber drought? I will see you in the next part of Gish. Thanks for watching.